Captain's Log Supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does
have,
the Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled 3 who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team. Dominating with Dawson.
Breaking news! Breaking news! We've had a sighting. Ben Dawson has been at a racetrack.
I'm surprised you could see me because I was going so fast.
Well, you know, light speed is a speed, so
Mhm.
you know that's how things roll.
Yeah.
It's been a few days since you've been to a track, Ben. We hear
Yeah,
it.
I didn't
We hear
drive
it's
at all in
back.
2023. Yeah, I didn't drive at all in 2023, and it's nice to be back out there. Hopefully, maybe one more time this year, but it's nice to get out there at all anytime. I had a good time. We were racing with American Endurance Racing, AER, and I was racing my friend's BMW E36 M3, so an M3 from the late 90s. We've got it's got a stock M3 engine. There's nothing extra done to that because we're not trying to break anything, and those engines are already finicky enough. But he's got like nice motion control shocks on there. He runs big Porsche brakes, big Porsche brake calipers, at least in the front, maybe in the back, so we can run bigger pads that last longer because we end up going through pads pretty quickly, even endurance racing pads. I think we used a set every day, so we were out there braking pretty hard.
Wow.
We're running on Falcon, Zennies, whatever, like the 615K, but not the K plus, whichever one's the endurance tire, not the autocross tire. They did really well for us all weekend. I think we ran Saturday on a set of tires that had a bunch of practice time on them. Then ran Sunday on new tires, exactly the same time, exactly the same best lap time both days. So it didn't really matter. The tires are great. Let's see. I'm trying to think about what else. We got Aero. We got a Wang Gang, big Wang on the back. Yep, and we got a nice.
Is that a new thing?
Split. No, we've always had that. And we've got a nice splitter sticking out the front. They kind of hold the front down. So that's a car where you could run the S's at the hour flat out, but if you do, you won't hit the last turn at the angle you want to. So you got to kind of bleed it. But that's what we're talking about. The Aero kind of lets you roll pretty hard and lets you kind of take the fast turns, maybe a little bit faster than you would have. I could probably take South Bend a little bit quicker at VIR than I would in a car with no Aero. So it's a fun car to race, and it fits in pretty well with the sort of the way classing works with AER. We always end up in a pretty competitive, fun group. they won both days last year, and so we were going into that kind of expectation of being competitive and having a good time, and we did.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, it wouldn't be a Dominated with Dawson without trying to help other people learn.
Absolutely.
You were away for a while.
Yes.
You had potentially Dominated with Dawson rust, and you had to acclimate all over to the track because, I mean, in spite of your reputation, you don't drive like race car Ben Dawson around town.
I do and I don't.
Well, all the time. Perhaps there was a
Right,
little
right.
rust. What would you say
No, they're,
you did, and what would you say you
yeah,
recommend for others that maybe had a first race of the season or first
yeah.
race in a long time?
Great. That's a good question because I did kind of go in there with a little bit of nerves about like, I know I still got it, but not how long it's going to take me to get it back together as far as getting all my rhythm and all my speed back. Kind of, the right before I kind of dipped out of racing for a while with having a second kid, the pandemic and stuff. I was out there a lot, so I was in a really good practice and then settling down for a few years. So I was kind of worried about that, and I was worried about how long it would take me to get up to speed because I've come out a couple of times with Reed in his car, and it's been like, I want to use all the time in practice as qualifying. I can get on track just to get up to speed, and it's felt like it was tough to get there. This car runs lap times that are similar to Specky 46 around the full course, and like I would say a good mid pack Specky 46 pace is like a 210. And so in my head, I kind of went in there with a target of saying, like, I'll feel like I'm up to speed and comfortable if I can go out and hit a 210. Also, with AER, they're kind of watching your times and stuff like that. So it was like, hey, we don't want to go out there and go crazy fast, but in this practice time, there was like an HPDE session where nobody was timing anything. So I hate to say it, but like I don't want to sound crazy. None of us were really going to sandbag or anything like that. But we just were like, hey, if this thing will run like a 205 or something, like, hey, let's keep that under our hat. If we figure out this DE, let's kind of keep it under our hat and kind of figure out how things are looking. Anyway, didn't play out like that, but I was worried that would be really rusty. So I didn't know. I think the DE session was from like 10 to 12 or 9 to 12, and I got there like right in the fairly early part of it. Like the first driver had just gone out, and I was going to get to be the second or third. I think one guy was out, then it was going to be Chad and me or something like that. So I was not worried. I wasn't stressed about getting time in the car, but I was kind of stressed about how I was going to do once I got in the car. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, stressed is relative. I was elated to be at the racetrack and stressed within that elation. You know what I mean? So overall, good condition. I was just kind of internally worried about, and I mean, even still, I knew I'm there with a good squad of drivers, and I wasn't worried about being the fastest. I just kind of wanted to hit the time that I had in my head. So I get out there, and interestingly enough, like we're all pretty good at this, and it felt weird because we've always been in a place where we don't have a car that's that competitive. The only really competitive edge we had was our driving. So so we've always just wailed on the car, trying to get every bit of track time, every bit of practice we could for everybody. I went out and I ran a couple laps that were disappointing. Like, I feel like I'm running pretty hard, but the times are just not there. And I started kind of putting a couple things together. Remember, I like to kind of hit it here. I kind of hit my marks and kind of remembered some visual cues that I use about what to point at, where to brake. And so I started kind of getting it together. So I had a couple of laps where I'm looking at the timer going by. You run your lap and you're looking at your predictive timer. It's like, I was like, okay, that was an out lap. All right, that was the first practice lap. All right, this lap should be good. You hit your third lap out, like the predictive is still saying like 215 or 216 or something. Like, what am I doing? I'm missing a handful of seconds here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of kept driving, and it wasn't I wasn't out there a long time, but I kind of got my feet up under me and hit a 210 pretty quickly. I mean, certainly within the first 20 minutes, maybe within the first 15 minutes of the DE. And in the back of my mind, because with this car, like I'm used to this car, like eating up steering racks, like we talked about in our power steering episode. This car is not full of problems, but it has them every once in a while. Sometimes the power steering feels like a commodity in that car. So I was like, okay, I'm not as rusty as I thought I was going to be. I'll pick up speed over the weekend if necessary, or pick up more consistency over the weekend. But I've kind of hit a pace where I was like, if I can hit a 210, I'm good enough. I want to park the car and save on the what?
Wear and tear.
Wear and tear. Save on the wear items. So it felt weird for us to be this historically competitive. They won both Saturday and Sunday last year and not having to run a crazy pace with the car. And we hit that pace right out of the gate this time in the DE on Friday. And we're able to go, I'm good. I was like, I went in there worried, like, oh crap, it's gonna take me a long time to get up to speed. I'm gonna try to be reaching for the non-existent blinker stalk the first time I go into turn one, but I didn't. It was I kind of had a couple of befuddling laps, so I found my found my sea legs again, and once I got rocking, I was like, all right, that's a good time, and I parked it. It's never been the scenario for us before where we've had pace and said good enough, good enough to put in the trailer for the day. So it's a really nice feeling.
So, did you have sensory issues when you're going back on there?
Well, I've been having issues with my vision that I didn't realize how bad they were. But
Mm-hmm.
the eye on the side of my face where I had surgery to replace like most of my jaw right around last Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how badly I was not able to focus with that eye. But my kid wanted to get an eye exam. I'm like, I'll take you in. I kind of need to get my stuff checked out because I'm not sure what's going on. It turned out like I had some retinal swelling. They're not sure why. But like, luckily, I was able to get that all pretty well resolved before the race, and my vision was pretty good. I think I was assimilating a pretty good picture, but I wasn't wild about driving a race car without being able to focus as well as I thought I should have. So all the stuff with the eye exam timed out pretty well. The eye exam, the steroid eye
Really?
drops. So if you're talking about sensory issues, there's a really real one right there. But luckily that
Yeah.
all played out pretty good. And I was seeing, and it would be fast and safe on the track. But as far as like sensory issues, yeah, I definitely didn't have my kind of butt dyno dialed in about like, oh, I can get away with this. Like I was real timid. I was timid going into the S's for the first few laps, like not feeling that I could even go in there running the first one flat out. Like I was backing out, and I was kind of just trying to feel it and kind of getting my body back in rhythm with the track because VIR really is a rhythm track. You kind of got here, you used to kind of, especially up through the S's and down through Oak Tree and South Bend. So you're right. That's a good question about sensory issues. I think, like as far as vision, we talked about that. I'm not tasting or smelling a lot, but the vision and the hearing and the touch are all pretty good. And for me, the touch includes just the way my body's kind of moving around in the car. So some of that stuff took a while to get used to. Through as the weekend progressed, I found more and more places where um, I was like, oh yeah, I used to be able to do that this hard or this fast here, where I've been kind of fudging or not knowing exactly where to put the car. Like I finally nailed down my approach to turn three, which is if you watch from the snack stand at VIR and watch cars driving into turn three, they're all over the place and they're all going about the same pace. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
usually you find a place that you like, and it took me all weekend until my last stint Sunday to kind of like, oh yeah, I like to hit this way, I like to hit this that way, which ties in pretty well to what ended up being my mission over the weekend, which was mostly I got to start the race on Saturday and went out to lead our class pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the gap on the second place in our class, and they got on the radio because that car is thirsty. We're on a stock fuel tank, and we're
Mm-hmm.
lucky to ever get an hour and a half out of that car. To be competitive with AER, you need to be able to do about that. They also have a required number of stops that makes it where everybody's going to have to stop a certain amount of time. So it doesn't matter to go in 2 hours doesn't matter, but we needed to stretch fuel. We always need to stretch fuel. So I pulled out. I of course had a pretty dominating race start once it got going. Shout out to the race lead, and I'm just out there and like, all right, we need to get to X amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Is this okay? Is this okay for me to kind of give y'all some race narration?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So it ended up being a different mission than I'm used to having, where it's like, all right, Ben, it's time to save fuel. Usually it's like, all right, Ben, it's time to go bird dog it, get out there and pull a gap as far as we can. But Reed's car was good enough, and the field was we weren't. I think we qualified second. I totally skipped the qualifying race where they had a false green flag. I don't know if I told y'all that one, but we're all lined up. The pace car is still visible in front of me. And all of a sudden, Reed's like, green, green, green. I'm like, well, I guess we're going. And everybody starts to go. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, wait a minute, and backed off. So that's a fun exercise to have a false start. But one thing I love
never
about
tried one of those before.
it's not my favorite because all of a sudden everybody feels like they're in trouble too. You're like, oh, shit, am I in trouble? But one thing I do love about AER, there are some series that would have that, and then they have to have 20 meetings about it with the drivers and talk about it. Like AER, nobody said a damn thing about it. We just went on with their lives. The series didn't say anything about it. Nobody was like bitching or going crazy. It's just like, oh, that happened. So I dig AER as a real racer series where you're like, shit happens. Like
Wow.
if you have contact, the rule book is really like if you have contact, go try to work it out with the other team. Seriously, work it out with them. If you're still all pissy, come down. We'll review it. That's like, it's not literally like that, but that's what they're saying in the rule books. Like, work it out amongst yourselves. Let's just race. So anyway, I love the series. But our qualifying race wasn't very eventful. There was a huge wreck right in front of me going to like the end of the turn one in the qualifying race. Some red BMW just went shooting down the grass on the inside and just went bowling through all the cars in front of me in the qualifying race, and I was just right behind it, like, well, that sucks for y'all. I'm gonna go.
Wow.
That's,
But
that's
other than
no
that,
fun.
other than that, our qualifying was relatively uneventful, and we had to get all the drivers through the car, so I didn't even stay in very long. There was like a full course yellow, of course, after that, and I think I got out just to let the next person drive. So we qualified second and started there. So once the race got going and I pulled the gap, they're like, all right, Ben, we've got a pretty big enough gap. Like, that has to be going nuts to catch us before we need to stop again. And we were trying to get to the worker lunch break. The deal. No, I'm sorry, that was on Sunday. So I ran the first stint on Saturday, and they were just like, all right, we're trying to get to an hour and a half or whatever. So I ended up having to start saving fuel, which is new to me. So I'm trying to roll out of the throttle early. I'm trying to, you know what I mean?
Lift and coast.
I'm trying to lift and coast a little bit. I'm trying to short shift, and luckily for me, it helped a lot. So my mission changed from being like, "Hey, be fast guy, go out there and pull this gap." I did that. So then all of a sudden, it's like, "Hey, be frugal guy," which is hard for me. It's not my natural state. I'm usually out there just going wide open. So it was fun to have the aim solo. That's what we use time in the car. It's fun having that and having it set to predictive. And I'm gonna try letting off of the flag stand, and then just coasting into turn one and watch what that does to my predictive. I'm gonna try just short shifting. I'm gonna try running my net lap like normal, but instead of shifting everywhere we were shifting at 65. His car's fine up to like 772, but the power kind of thins out. So he's like, we're hitting max power pretty much at 65. We're trying to save fuel. So our rev target was 6,500 RPM to shift all weekend. So we were sticking to that. So if I'm short shifting, I'm gonna start trying to do it at 5 everywhere.
Now, what do you mean by short shifting?
I mean by not fully revving the engines. I mean by not fully revving it out to all the way to where you're making your max power, or you've determined that you should shift. So, my old Miata, we used to run that thing up to like 67, 60 or 7. I can't remember, but this is where you want to shift the car. When I drove Blake Field's S10 that had like a old school V8 Chevy in it, he was like, if you got to pass somebody, you can shift at 5,000. Otherwise, we want to be shifting at 45 everywhere. So it's just a different scale of what RPM you want to shift that motor at. It might depend on how much fuel you're trying to use. It might depend on where your peak power kicks in. Your car might be able to rev all the way to 7,500 RPM, but if you go to the dyno, you'll see that your car is making the most power at 67. So there's no point in over revving your engine just because it will go there. You know what I mean? Before you hit the chip or before you blow it up.
Right.
So usually you're talking about short shifting. If you were shifting at 6,500 RPM like we were, I'm talking about, let me back it down and try 5,500 or 5,500 or 5,000 and see what that does to my predictive time. So, instead of winding out every gear, I'm winding it out less. You can see your predictive kind of going bub, 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 bub. So I should go back and say, I ran our fastest time of the race that day. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to put stuff together. I'm starting to remember I like to hit this way. And so all the stuff I'm trying is shaving time off my laps. And I haven't really put one together on trying all the stuff I've finally kind of remembered. So I'm about to try. I ran a lap of 210 or something. I ran some 210s in the race, and I'm like, all right, time to get us into the single digits. Let's see what this thing can do. And right as I'm about to start doing that lap, the car owner gets on and goes, all right, it's time to save fuel. So I had to bail on my flyer that I was about to do, and I just start saving fuel. But it was a really fun challenge. It was fun watching how the car interacted with the different changes I was making, and I wanted to still run a fairly quick lap, but also be making some significant savings on fuel. So it was just, the only really way I had to quantify that was just to watch time dropping off. So it was like, all right, we want you to run, try to target 2:15s or whatever. So I had to really slow down a lot just to try to, knock 5 seconds off my lap, but not be ridiculous about it or do it in a way that didn't make sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it does. And the reason why is that I'm thinking back on my own racing this past schedule that we just did at NJMP, and that was one of the things that's resonating from what you're saying is that I was running high RPMs most of the time. I was just to get around the track fast.
Right.
It's an endurance race, and now I'm realizing that I should have just better paced myself and not killed myself to get around the track, because that sucked all the gas, right?
That was why I was trying to get you to do 2.5 hours, and you called in and go, I'm empty. And I'm like,
I'm empty, because I was trying to gain I was trying to gain position the entire time, and I'm like, I'm passing everybody, and but then I'm realizing that we have a 10-gallon tank.
It's all a journey. What y'all need is a 24-gallon fuel cell and let loose. But yeah,
double
you're
the
right.
weight of the car, Ben.
But
that's very interesting. I mean, that would be a great topic that we could talk about after this, and we can revisit that.
Sure. It would have been better to talk about it before you got in the car, because I thought you knew what to do, and then
I didn't. I was just happy to be in there. I had purple mist going in that car on second day. I'm sorry.
We were trying to do a two-stop race, 8.5 hours.
Purple mist with glitter.
First of all, Bill, that's ridiculous.
I know.
So go ahead.
So I needed 2.5 hours, and she calls in after an hour.
Great.
And I'm like, okay, so where's the gas tank?
You were trying to push for 3 hours.
That was mine. I wanted you and Jen to do 2.5. I was going to do 3. And I call her up after an hour. I'm like, okay, where are you? Like 3/4, maybe a little less. She's like, I'm under half. And I'm like, okay, this plan is not.
There you go. That's my girl right there, getting busy on that loud pedal.
I was getting busy. I was like,
so funny.
Yep.
I got out of that car and I hop right back in at the end too. Like, get out of the way! I'm coming in there.
Let me say, I am not the strategy guy with our team. Reed and some other guys are. So I'm grateful that I'm somebody who can just go out and hit my target as far as fast, slow, whatever. I'm glad to be that guy. But it was really cool to see how well in tune Reed is with his car, as far as going, hey Ben, you go out and run these times, I think we'll hit our fuel target. And he was ridiculously on target with the stuff he ended up telling me, like, hey, go try to run this, so we'll be good for X, Y, or Z. So that was a fun game to play that I hadn't really played before to that level. We've been in places where we were sort of competitive, then we need to save fuel, then something break on the car and it didn't matter. You know what I mean? So we kind of started to go down that road, but I've never really gotten to ride that road all the way to finish it, which was really cool. I'm trying to think how I can't remember how we finished on Saturday. I know we finished Sunday second place. Forgot about it. So Saturday we had a bunch of problems. Our exhaust fell off. Like halfway through, our exhaust was falling off, so we ended up coming off track for a long time. And I think we still came in 4th in our class and had a good day of racing. It was a good practice day for Sunday. But when you have something like that fails, we had an exhaust clamp that failed, and then we ended up spending a bunch of time off track fixing it and coming back to it. But Sunday ended up being a really fun race. They put me in. They were going to put me at the end, but then they heard it was going to rain between like 11 and 12. So like, all right, you're going in for the second stint because you love rain, and we all don't. And then it didn't rain at all, but I still had a good stint. It was another one where I got out, and the whole time was like, all right, save fuel, run 2:13s. I hit Bill afterwards. I was like, could you tell I was trying to run a certain time? And he's like, yep. But within running that time, I'm trying to find places where I can still exploit pace without the throttle pedal. So I kept finding, like, hitting the track with a little bit less pace lets you explore and kind of push your elbows out. It's like, oh, I can hit this a little harder. I can let off here and kind of coast in the brakes. So one of the things that helped me find how deeply I could brake even without the letting off and coasting in was the letting off and coasting in. Because I would let off just, maybe let it off where the number boards start, and then I could break a brake marker deeper. Does that make sense? Usually I'm braking at the 3, if I or 3.5 maybe. If I started letting off where the brake markers start, like 5, 6, 7, 8, just let off there and then hit the brakes a little bit later, I could brake almost at the 2, 2.5. So it was interesting to see how the early let off could translate to stealing that pace right back by braking later. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you got a more stable platform too.
Yeah. So it was really interesting, the Robin Peter to pay Paul game, and trying to give away seconds, fritter away some pace. And obviously, but when you give away pace, you're giving away extra fuel usage you didn't want to do. So it was cool. Like, there were also, this is kind of the last thing I'll say. We had a great race. It was all over, but I wasn't irritated by saving fuel. By the end of it, I was a little bored with it. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, cool. And so I needed to get us all the way. I needed on Sunday. I was trying to run us to the mandatory workers lunch break, where they were going to go somewhere between 11:45 and 12. They're going to throw a caution just to drive a van around and give all the workers lunch. Does that make sense? All the corner stations.
Yep.
So they were like, "Hey Ben, we're going to put you in. We need you to. We're hoping for rain, so we'll save a lot of fuel just through the rain. But if it doesn't rain, it's going to be this. We're going to run these laps." So it didn't rain. Ended up having to run those laps, but I got us to the point we needed. It made it all the way to the full course caution for worker break, and that felt like taking the checker and winning the race to me. Like, just like, Ben, stay on target, stay on task, do this. So I ran my 213s, got us to the thing, but I was a little bit bored with saving fuel toward the end, so I would just drive right by where our pits was and let off right there by the pits. I would pull right over to that side.
You should have just gone by and flipped them off as you were going.
Should have. But then they would radio like, hey, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, I just had to give the Lord back like 3 of his seconds in the day. So I did it right here. And so every time I'd be like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, yep. So I did it a few times just to be an asshole. But yeah, it was a great weekend. We had a super fun time. AER is a great series to race with. The people are always fun and supportive, clean racing, very cool. Never a single bad vibe, except maybe one I could tell you about. But that's the only one. Anyway.
That's the OnlyFans. That's the OnlyFans episode.
Yeah, but it was a great time. It felt great. I needed it for damn sure. I didn't realize how therapeutic it was to just get out there and cut loose and race. It's always weird for me. My work has gotten crazier and crazier, so it feels so weird to just detach and go, all right, I'm not here Friday. I'm at the racetrack, so it's great. Another thing I like about AER is that the event is a whole day of practice and practice and qualifying on Friday, and then you race all weekend. So it's a nice clean chunk of at least a half a week of racecation.
Mm-hmm. All right,
racecation. Oh, hold on just for a sec. I have to tell you that picture that you took from the race and you posted, I have never seen pure joy like that.
Yeah, pretty fucking happy.
Yeah, you were just like a little kid.
Yeah, that's what it does to me. That's why I'm there. I mean, if you have something that you really enjoy and you're that good and you're good at it and it's fulfilling, I say lock onto it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ben Dawson, what was the area that you were the most rusty of your driving?
Brakes.
Okay.
Yeah, getting deep enough on the brakes and trusting them. And also I was lazy about it every weekend. I was fine. I knew I wasn't hitting the brakes as hard as I could, but I had enough pace that enough. It was. I didn't find myself pushing myself on the brakes until I started like letting off early and realizing like, oh, I can stop the car even. You know what I mean? That kind of helped me feel into the brakes. But I wasn't getting in there. I wasn't solidly on the ABS everywhere, and that car's got pretty good ABS. The ABS in the E36 kind of like feels like it's tickling your toes a little bit. You're like, oh, I'm in it, but it works well. It still does good stopping. I wasn't in the ABS at all Friday, maybe a couple times on Saturday, and then Sunday I was dwelling in the ABS. So that's what took me the most time to get up to. But also, like I say, I hit the pace I wanted on Friday, so I was getting the speed other places. But putting all this stuff together, I think if I wasn't being kind of held back, like, all right, run to these paces, I'm pretty sure I could have gone out with all the stuff I assembled over the weekend, picking back up on rhythm, understanding how deep I could break it. Because also at the back of my mind, this car is like as nice as a British touring car from the 90s. Like, this thing is a nice race car. Reed's put a lot of love into it. So I like going crazy on the brakes is kind of the last thing I need to do if I've got the pace I want, but it was nice to explore and get deeper into the brakes. Not that I had to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's good to know where the limits are.
Yeah, so it was nice to be finally comfortable enough with the car. Just like, all right, I'm just going to wail on I'm going to deep brake everywhere and be hitting ABS everywhere. But also, I had to keep losing seconds off the laps. It was good to know, but also not essential to the kind of laps I was trying to run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was awesome. I was glad to find that. Next time I'm going out there trying to be slamming down bangers on a time trial, I'll be in better shape. So it was a good refresher for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it was great seeing you back out there, and I know we got a lot of notes in the interwebs that we're happy to see you back out.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's it's nice. Extremely nice to get back out there. I'm hoping to hit one in September with Mr. Blake Field if I can. We're gonna see. Trying to make it work. I needed to get to the AER one first and then go for that. But if I can do the one in September, it'll be a huge bucket list thing, and we'll talk about it if I can do it.
Well, we haven't crossed off our begging of you to come in October, so don't forget about that one. It's
Yeah.
it's with Kathy.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right,
Well,
very well.
keep me posted on that too. I mean, it's
We'll batch you. Don't worry. I mean, we'll remind you.
there's this cool group that I kind of got to connect with called Tidewater Sports Car Club. They're kind of more Virginian than North Carolina, and so I didn't know them many people. They came, and a couple of them came. Alex and Amanda Hard came and crewed with us all weekend from that group, and they're like, "Hey, we do DEs here. We're one of the last groups still doing DEs because VIR has gotten so expensive."
Yeah.
And it really took me back to instructing. I was like, I would probably come and instruct with y'all if I could bring my son and somebody would watch my son while I'm on track. And this lady's like, I don't have kids, but I'm great at babysitting. So I think I've conned maybe my next DE experiences in it's like some free babysitting. We'll see how that goes.
I know some other people who instruct and do DEs that could easily meet finally at VIR, the place we've never been.
I have been there a couple times.
Yeah, we have yet to be there, but I'm more than willing to instruct somebody there.
Let's do it. Yeah,
we might have the makings of a plan here. This might work.
All right.
All right. Great to see you back out there, Ben. Nice job.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's extremely nice to be back out there.